Gelthorn and Chalara examined the altars carefully, searching for any concealed sign or rune that might hint at which trophy went where. Ultimately, they discovered nothing, which proved sensible after some consideration. There were several different options for what they could have hunted, so assigning specific items to specific altars would only make the whole endeavor needlessly more complicated. Nevertheless, they had to be thorough. After everything it had taken to get these components, the idea of starting over was untenable. More likely, they'd just move on to a new adventure. Carefully, they unpacked their hard-won prizes, the feather of a golden rock, the eye of a lyranx, and a face from a slain helsk. Each so seemingly small when held in a hand. It would be impossible for anyone else to feel the weight of the effort, fear, and blood that had gone into acquiring each one. But the spell would know. It wasn't just about the items. It was about the power it took to earn them. Some components, like material for their potions, could be purchased. Others, like the Helsk face, could only be earned. When dealing with magic, details mattered. First came the potion, poured into the stone bowl. As it landed, the archway began to glow. Next came the golden rock feather, which dissolved within seconds of touching the potion. An instant later, one of the three altars glowed the same hue as the archway. The other altars lit up as they added the eyes and face respectively. "Now, we wait," Chalara informed them. "When the magic finishes, the door will be ready. Going to take a while, based on what I've heard. And on that topic, our portal only stays open for a few minutes, so we need to be ready to move as soon as we can. Much as I love a silly risk, getting here was tough, and I'm not in the mood for a do-over." All of her party took note of the fact that even she was being serious and readied themselves appropriately. There might be more than they knew about, one last test to pass before getting through, and they wouldn't be caught unprepared. They'd fought hard to gain entry to Lumal. They wouldn't lose their chance now. Not without putting up the best fight they could. With weapons ready and nerves tense, the party drew closer, kept their eyes on the door, and waited. They knew their enemy was coming. Agrimor had sent word the moment someone entered her forest. None of the adventurers had met the druid as of yet, but no one in Notch doubted her report once it was received, so she was evidently the trustworthy type. If Agrimor had sent more information than just the fact that someone was approaching, it would have been appreciated, although since concealing magic was in play, they could hardly blame her. Evidently, a dark sphere moving through the woods was all she could glean. No sights or sounds, not even smells, were drifting through that barrier. The one thing Agrimor seemed certain of was that there was no way it was big enough to hide an army. In theory, that should have been comforting, but in practice, it meant they had no idea where their enemy's forces were or how they'd arrive, assuming they were real. Once they gave up on that assumption, then there truly was no way to guess at what was coming. Even with an inkling of what he suspected was going on, Thistle hadn't been able to fully unravel the point of all this. So much effort, just to keep them here. It didn't make sense, which could only mean that he was missing something. Until he knew more, Thistle's nerves refused to settle down. He was anxious to have an enemy he could see, confront, and ideally dispatch before their true sinister intentions were laid bare. "I see the dome. They just emerged from the woods and are heading this way." Eric's necklace was already proving its worth, as the rest of the party squinted to try to make out a dark blob off in the distance. It took a full 10 minutes for the dome to properly come into view, and another 15 before it had drawn close enough to merit concern. Weapons were out, but not raised, as their wielders waited patiently to see where this was going. Just as the dome was nearing the town square, Kieran stepped forward. His own blade was still in its sheath. Given the speed with which they'd seen Kieran move, the time it would take to draw was probably negligible. Unlikely to make any difference unless he had an opponent who was equally as quick. "Fun in entrance as that is, it's also as far as you go like that. I don't want to tarnish this town with blood, and since you don't have an automaton army with you, I'm sincerely hoping you've come to talk. If you don't show yourself, however, I'll have to assume the worst. And naturally, after that point, I'll have to do my worst. Let's not go down that road. Not unless it is unavoidable." At first, it seemed like the dark dome must be blocking sound from getting in as well.